Hello, Richard.
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I think there's maybe a couple of hundred here so far. And a warm welcome from all of us here. We've got a very exciting session to share with you. And the essence of this is contained in a word a word I use in the Gene Keys a lot called syntropy. And syntropy is a word, you could kind of look at it as the opposite of entropy, if you know what entropy means. Entropy is when energy leaks out of a system. And a way of looking at the world through entropy is a way that's essentially selfish. And it's you can look at it through any system. So you can look at the way in which we farm, for example, and how generally, industrial farming, for example, it leaches the energy and the nutrients out of the soil. And so that's an example of entropy. Syntropy is an example when it would be a way of actually putting energy back into the soil constantly. And so that's a metaphor for a living process, a living principle at the core of the universe. And it's about generosity, really. Nature and life is in its essence generous. A tree, a fruit tree creates way more fruit than it needs to propagate itself. It creates in a huge abundance, and then that, is shared out, and a lot of it is just becomes fertilizer. And so our entire attitude towards life in the world, if it's rooted in this principle of syntropy, we start to do things differently and we start to look at things differently. And it's an essential quality at the core of the Gene Keys teachings. And for me, it kind of came alive fully in around 2015 when I went to a refugee camp in Greece, at Idomeni refugee camp, and I was so moved and kind of shocked by what was going on there that over the last 5, 6, 7 years, Gene Keys has been donating a portion of its profits to refugees in Greece and to a grassroots organization there. And I mean, I'm not very transparent about this because it just goes on in the background, but it's a way of giving back organically to something that occurred that came my way. And then the next part of the story involves the dream arc, and that's why Rosy's here. This is Rosy, for those of you who may haven't met Rosy Aronson. And Rosy and I created this incredible teaching called the Dream Arc, and it's rooted in the Gene Keys. And essentially what we did is we kind of transformed the Gene Keys, if you know the Gene Keys, into lots of animals, right? And birds and underworld creatures. So the Gene Keys are laid out in these layers of, each of the wording. So as you come and explore the Gene Keys, this is something you'll discover for yourself, that these words that relate to aspects of your life, but they have different levels. And the dream arc also has these different levels, but it kind of animates in a more sort of shamanic universal language that isn't of the left brain. It's not numbers and things, that the Gene Keys are numbers. But these are animals and creatures, so they appeal to us in a more intuitive way. And then we created this big, amazing teaching called the Dream Arc, which is a whole extension of the Gene Keys. And it's very fun, but it's very profound. And it took us 3 years to create it. And out of it, and you can explore all sort of links and go and have a look at it, just to kind of get a taste of what we've created. But out of it, and Rosie and my relationship and the team that came together, came another amazing syntropy project. And this project is about taking the Gene Keys out into the world and applying it as a living teaching, especially, what's come to us through Rosie and her connections is this universal love curriculum. And this is connected to an amazing group you're going to hear about today in Uganda, where we are creating this curriculum in the you know, and with the intention of modeling it in schools in Uganda. And it's based on the Gene Keys, or parts of the Gene Keys and the art of contemplation. And it's based more on the dream arc aspect of the Gene Keys. So it's based more on these animal totems, I could call them, or ways of understanding what animals represent in our inner psyche and how we can use them to overcome real obstacles in our lives. And so it's a curriculum that's being developed by this incredible team who you're going to meet some of tonight, who have been working tirelessly with Samson Turinawe, who's the head of the Universal Love Alliance in Uganda. You're also going to hear about them. And I hope you'll stay for the whole call, because it's an amazing story. And this is an incredible project. It's the first time that we've ever kind of, really started to use the Gene Keys teachings through the dream arc and the art of contemplation and other aspects in a way that actually can impact an indigenous culture at a grassroots level, to young people who need a new way of learning in order to kind of, get more out of their lives, really, because as you're going to hear, it's pretty tough in Uganda. And so often those things seem a long way away from many of us who live a long way away, perhaps from Africa and those kind of developing countries. And so it's a big thing for us to kind of start to use, the energy and the money that we're generating through business, through our lives, and begin to redistribute it, in different ways. And this is a really beautiful project. And one of our core principles of the Gene Keys is to model and extend the teachings as far and wide into the world as we can. It was always my dream to bring it, and I know Rosy's as well, to bring these teachings into those developing countries and nations where, and finding a way of extending them and adapting them so they can be of use to empower people, individuals, relationships, communities, and to empower them in really kind of organic and, empathic ways. And that's what, again, you're going to hear more about this from the experts who have really been developing this curriculum and working with these tools and exploring ways in which we can implement them. So it's something I'm really excited about. And to me, it feels like, like a new stage for me with my work with the Gene Keys and the Dream Arc, that we can reach out into, distant communities, distant for many of us. They're not distant so much for you, Samson, but, and your team, but for us it is. And it's a real privilege and an honor to be here and to be working with you, and to even just be able to be of some support in, a new way of bringing a new vision. And you're going to hear also that there's a huge vision at work here, and the vision goes far beyond even just bringing it into schools in Uganda and Africa. We actually would like to extend this curriculum, once it's developed, into other countries all around the world, because it can be really inspiring and empowering for children all over the world. So very exciting, very inspiring project. And I'm looking forward also to hearing from these amazing people tonight. So over to you, Rosy.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you for bringing us together in honor of generosity and syntropy, and defining that term for all of us. And before I get started, I just want to add that on the one hand, we're bringing the art of contemplation and the dream arc to Uganda, for example, for this pilot program. But really, this is a deep collaboration with the elders and the wisdom keepers of Uganda, and they are enriching the curriculum and teaching us. So I really want us to be thinking about this as this incredible hybrid and cross-pollination between cultures that, as you say, it's just going to spread.
Yeah, and
So,
I didn't mention the Great Change because it's there in the title. So
oh
some
yeah.
people might be wondering, what's the Great Change? If you're new to Gene Keys, so just in like a couple of sentences, I'll try and but like the Great Change is like this time that we're in of shifting from one whole epoch and way of being to a new way of being. And it hinges around these words, entropy to syntropy. So, as we change our view from being self-centered, through entropy into syntropy and considering the entire systems and applying whole systems approaches to everything, and the way we look at everything, business and nature, gardening, the way we steward the planet, economics, politics, everything, every aspect of life, health is like it, when we start to look at it through the lens of syntropy, which is the natural flowering system of life, then we start to kind of understand the way everything is interconnected and how we are all interconnected through this loving, energy that connects all beings, in a harmony, actually. So that's when we start to create this new harmony, this higher harmony. And that's really the meaning of the Great Change. It's like it's a process that we're moving through as a species, humanity, to begin to see things in a much wider view than we ever have before. But then we also have to implement that. And that's what this is an example right here, right now, tonight, today, this morning, whenever you are, of syntropy in action. So it's like this is the real cutting edge. You're seeing it. So thanks. I'm sorry, Rosie, I cut into you, but I wanted to say that.
no, I'm so glad that you did. And cutting edge indeed. We are planting seeds today. And really, there are no words to describe how moved I am to be here with all of you. This moment has been a long time coming. And I would not be honest if I didn't say that over the past 8 years, much of the time, a moment like this would have felt like a total pipe dream. But as Starhawk, for those of you who remember her, the neo-pagan ecofeminist author once wrote, and I think it was Starhawk, magic is when the impossible becomes the inevitable. And if there were a time on our planet when some compassionate, loving, transformative magic was needed, this is that time, this time of great change, as Richard was just sharing. So I just want to welcome everybody. Whether you're watching live or you're joining us from the future, I believe that you're here for a reason. We all know that you are. Just by being here with an open heart, you are literally blessing the birth, or maybe like the second and third trimester of a magnificently creative baby that has the potential to universally loveify the world. And we have so many things to share with you about the project or movement in the making, about teamwork, generosity, the magical power of a community that's been lit up and activated through the heart. But I promised myself that I'd keep my intro short-ish in order to make room for some of the most wonderful teammates I've ever had the pleasure and honor of working with. In addition to the DreamArc team, I got to give a special shout out to Elijah and Sally as well. But the people who have worked on this particular curriculum team, they took an invitation to practice a little bit of generosity and they ran with it. So what I'm going to do is just let other people present the project itself and just focus on introducing the core members of the Universal Love Curriculum team and basically just thank them. Really, I just want to thank them out loud, because if I've learned anything from this experience, it's how much we need each other. These people have been literal godsends in my life, in this project's life. I could talk for hours about each of them, but I will do my best, Richard, to be quintessential. And I would like to start with Samson Turinawe. I met Samson in 2015 when he spontaneously and very intuitively reached out to me on Facebook. And at the time, he was the executive director of Universal Love Ministries, which is now Universal Love Alliance. And I was just about to launch this global video campaign that was based on another art project of mine called The Face of Love is Universal. And our souls just instantly recognized each other. And in the blink of an eye, he and his colleagues were traveling around Uganda, gathering images and footage of children holding up my Wisdom Keeper drawings. And the next thing I knew, I was co-founding and sitting on the board of the Universal Love Alliance Foundation, something that I was and am still totally unqualified to do, but I did it anyway, because how could I not do it once I met Samson? And so I've been learning from and working with and devoted to Samson and my Ugandan brothers and sisters ever since. And I cannot tell you how happy it makes me that you're all about to get to experience this magnificent man. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of our time together, you will understand why I have come to cherish him as a living, breathing wisdom keeper with a heart as courageous, strong, and resilient as it gets. So Samson, you are my brother and my role model, and I love you. Oh my God, how am I going to get through this? Okay, so the next team member that I would like to name and honor is not here today because she is literally too busy working on the curriculum, and I'm not kidding. And that person is my beloved sister. I don't think I'm going to get through this, Richard. Rosy Aronson is her name, and it's not everybody who gets to say that they ended up with a biological and soul sister all wrapped up in one, but I got that. And I thank the universe for Rosy every single day. She has worked for decades as a spiritually oriented, multicultural, licensed clinical psychologist in the heart of Washington, D.C. And over the years, she's been actively engaged in international nonprofit development, consultation, and youth work. She has a deep and I believe karmic affinity for African and African American cultural arts and community, and is an amazing African drummer, in my opinion. She would say no, but she's been doing it for decades and she's amazing. Her love of cultural immersion has led her on international travel excursions, including an almost year-long off-the-grid adventure in both Africa and India, where she, amongst many other things, launched her path as a certified Sattva yoga instructor and Vedic astrologer. And despite her ridiculously full private practice in life, she has dedicated countless hours for the last 3 years, meeting with me and Samson and bringing what started out as the lovely idea for a curriculum to life and down to earth with her incredible depth, her wise prism, and attention to detail. So Marilee, you're not here right now, but one day you're going to watch this and just know that I love you. And I can't wait for you all to meet her. Okay, so now I am going to introduce you to my other teammates who you'll get to experience soon, because they'll each be sharing their passion and shining their light while we're together. Orion Ohev will be the one who's presenting the curriculum to all of us. And I met Orion some years back. Orion, remember this, in Santa Fe at a powerful ceremony where he was there as a support. And immediately Orion and I hit it off, and I learned all about his love of the Gene Keys, his work as a coach, trainer, team builder, his commitment to working with groups at the nervous system level, helping team members express their gifts and enter the flow of their genius. Orion has so many gifts, including the art of distilling big visions and opening doors out of nothing. And I have been looking for quite some time for ways for us to work together. And when I learned about his love of education and collaborative projects like this one, I was just over the moon excited. And one of the things I appreciate most about Orion is his utter willingness to pitch in wherever and however his skill sets are needed most. So when Marilee, Samson, and I reached the point where we knew kind of what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go, we had no clue about how to get there. Orion stepped in and basically has been project managing this whole dream into existence. So you're going to be hearing from Orion soon. And now I'd love to share about the other Rose on the team. This is the first time in my life I've gotten to work closely with a Rose. And I got to say, it is an absolute pleasure. I recommend it highly. And it was pure intuition and serendipity that brought Rose to us. She was participating in the DreamArc online course and ended up in a breakout room with Samson. And like me, she fell instantly in love with the man. And the next thing you know, she's reaching out to him, she's reaching out to us with the fullest of hearts and just saying, how can I serve? What can I do? And it didn't take long for us to learn that Rose is not just kind and generous and gorgeous. She's literally overflowing with creative and emotional intelligence, ethical grounding, strategic capacities, and practical skills. And along with being a mentor and a guide, she's a paralegal, an inclusiveness advocate, a community builder, and an intrepid adventurer into the inner realms. And her enthusiasm and ability not just to see possibilities, but to create a solid foundation for those possibilities and implement them is just phenomenal and contagious. So now I would like to introduce Matthew Ashdown. Some of you may already know him in the Dream Arc community. He's known as Matthew the Squire. And he says lately people have been calling him Matthew the Scribe or the Dream Arc Manager. And in my personal and working world inside of the Gene Keys, he's known by me as the man who saves my life on a daily basis. Matthew doesn't just live and breathe the dream arc. He has an uncanny ability to sense what's happening in the field, in the community, what's needed, what's missing, what's loved, what's working. Matthew is our unifier. You know, he's bringing the dream arc together with the Gene Keys, together with the universal love curriculum that we're about to share with you. And he continually comes up with brilliant ideas, solves countless dilemmas, bridges a diversity of teams, and spins every possible plate that I toss his way with such grace and generosity. And believe me, I toss a lot of plates in Matthew's general direction. And I'm not sure what I would do without you, Matthew, and I'm really grateful to have you on this team. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Isabel Elias, to whom I will soon be handing the baton. And Isabel is a devoted Gene Keys ambassador, so she's been around a long time. And just one of those human beings who's achieved more than most on the material plane, but you would just never know it because she's as humble as it gets. And not only that, but she's wise and she's generous and she's open. And ever since Richard and I reached out to her a couple of years ago for guidance around this dream of syntropy and how we were going to make it happen, she has just shown up with this full-hearted, continuous yes. Like she has the way of making everything feel possible. And maybe that's because in her own life, she's facilitated the manifestation of countless big dreams. So she spent over 30 years in banking and finance, private equity, startup companies, real estate, and more. She's a wise and grounded guide, and she is as committed to supporting the Gene Keys Syntropy mission as she is to really living in alignment with her true nature and her deepest values. So Isabel, I now officially hand the baton over to you, and I'm just so happy that you're here. And I made it without totally sobbing, so I'm very proud of myself.
Thank you so much, Rosie. And hello, everybody. I'm here in the public for the first time. And I really wanted to share with you how ever since I was invited by Richard and Rosie to this project, to the Universal Love Project, I have been deeply touched and enormously happy to be a part of it. With such a tremendous team, the team keeps building up in such a way that, I mean, it's like, it's a real teamwork. I mean, we impersonate it. I mean, it's a true meaning of teamwork and group dynamics. Honestly, it feels such a dynamic of generosity and the essence of synarchy in all of its way. I've seen it, you know, in the front of my eyes. We've been working together for the last 9 months or so, and it's in such a concerted way, and the way it's coming together. And you're gonna be able to see a big presentation soon by Orion, and eventually Rose and the whole team, and of course Samson. But it seems that magic has been constantly evolving. When we plan to meet, when we read each other, when we have conversations, the acts of generosity are constant. And the project has such a vision and it's so profound. And at the end, we're giving it all for the good of the children in Uganda. I am really, I mean, I think I'm so grateful to be a part of this. And we're going to be, I mean, the idea is to educate people in such a symbolic way, where we're bringing the knowledge of the Gene Keys in a playful way with the animal kingdom, bringing the spirit of the animals and the spirit of the animals of Africa with their unique spirituality, which is at the end, so deep in their culture, and a culture that can be retold, told in a different way from the very basic and the very basis, which is the life and through the children. I think that we should be honestly connected to this project. I invite you to be and to be profoundly activated together and reconnected and awakened to feel the needs of our society. And it starts with the children. And again, as I said, in the pure form of play. So we can nurture education in the deepest way. With this, I think I leave you with Orion and all the work that we've been going through in the last few months will be shown to you. Orion, I leave you on it. Thank you.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. Thank you so much, Isabel, and yeah, and Rosy, and so beautiful to be a part of this team. And this presentation that I'm sharing here is such a team effort. So I feel really blessed to be able to share it all with you. And thanks to Isabel for your guidance, and Rosy on this presentation, for Samson contributing so much of his wisdom into this, and for Rose as well, contributing so much of the art and as well as the information. So it's a true team effort, and I'm excited to be able to share it all with you and really piggyback off of that amazing sharing from the team so far. And Uganda is, as Rosy shared, and Isabel too, and Richard, is such an amazing starting point. One of the main reasons is because of the meeting with Samson and the Universal Love Alliance being really centered there and existing there. But there's so many more reasons why Uganda is such a potent place for us to start this project, and to weave this template that we can bring also to the rest of the world. And we'll be talking about some of the indigenous wisdom of Uganda today, and why that makes it important. There's some unique opportunities in the education space in Uganda right now that Universal Love plugs right into. And also because of kind of the nature of education in Uganda. So Uganda has about 50 million population as of 2023, 41% of which is below the poverty line. And this is the most interesting fact, and thanks to Rose for kind of gathering this information and consolidating it into this really interesting point, that the median age right now is 16 years old. So there's a big youth movement in Uganda. So there's a lot of youth that need this and are primed for this. Yet the net completion rate of school is 51%. All education costs are coming out of pocket for the parents, and the class sizes are often 100+ students. So, there's a real opportunity to weave this curriculum into these classrooms, and to weave creativity, and to help students re-access their creativity. And so what is the challenge? And we're gonna, the most exciting part of this presentation to me is that if you haven't experienced Samson yet, maybe some of you have, I hope so. If not, you're gonna get to experience Samson in a few different videos talking about various components of this. And then also we get to hear from him live. So, but one of the things that he'll talk more about in a video shortly is colonization of mind, heart, and spirit, and just how much the children of Uganda have lost connection to their indigenous wisdom, to the wisdom of nature, to their cultural wisdom. And therefore, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously feeling unseen, disempowered, unsupported, and being prepared. And that leads to low confidence, a lack of self-awareness, being disconnected from their self-knowledge and their creativity and their agency, and overall disengagement in these very large classrooms. So on the outside, this dislocation results in low graduation rates and poor job placement. So I'm going to let Samson take it from here via this video.
The education system that we have in Uganda, it was designed by colonialists. It was brought here by British colonialists, and it was spearheaded by missionaries. And this type of education that we have, Uganda has practiced and educated to many Ugandans for many years. Mainly, it has created job seekers rather than job creators. It has created solution seekers rather than solution creators. So it was created and designed to serve the purposes of colonial masters. So in this way, we have had challenges in Uganda stemming with unemployment, which is very high, conflicts resulting from the way we are educated, divisionism. Colonialists designed education system here in Uganda, preparing people for white-collar jobs, that you have to sit in the office and serve people. And on the top, let's say executive directors or commissioners or what, these were missionaries. So Ugandans, for them, they were come and serve them in these offices. So in this way, even after independence, the education system has remained the same, designed to serve the masters. And this is why we have a lot of unemployment in Uganda. And yet every year, universities and colleges, and they produce graduates, but they have nothing to do that can help them support themselves. In other words, they come out without skills and the mind to create on their own. Instead, they are looking for what is already created.
Forgive me, I might need a moment after after every Samson video. There's something about, as I think you're gonna feel if you're not feeling it from that video already, just the way he speaks to things, the way he brings his heart to everything, and that just moves me so deeply.
The education is
sorry, Samson, not right now. But the it breaks my heart, and both gives me hope that this curriculum is coming at this time to help shift that momentum, to help shift this, and to decolonize the minds of the next generation in Uganda, and to that they've just been born into, and this momentum of pumping out graduates that don't have the skills they really need. So what we're looking to do is to radically shift education in the Western region. And we'll talk about why the Western region in a little bit. But our three main goals are to reconnect students with their culture, their innate wisdom, and their creativity, to help increase grade advancement and graduation rates, and most importantly, to teach students skills to thrive after graduation, to make sure that they have the skills they need to create opportunities for themselves when there aren't enough to go around to serve, as Samson said, the masters. So how? By developing skills like conflict resolution, creativity, teamwork, and empathy, training students to engage solutions within their environments, and empowering them to create their own opportunities. And who we are, as you've started to discover today, is an international collaboration. And the bigger vision is to work with communities around the world to enhance and modernize education by weaving ancient wisdom and local culture with embodied learning. So this system that we're doing in this project, this curriculum being rooted in African indigenous wisdom and Ugandan indigenous wisdom, is going to be the pillar that we can take to other local communities to localize the template of the curriculum to cultures around the world, to help return kids to their nature around the world. So this project is a pilot launch. So what we're going to be looking for is to create is mini pilots for groups of Ugandan students to experience the modules. In the schools that we've been building foundations with and connections with and relationships for years. So, you know, Rosy and Marilee and Richard and Sally have been involved in phase 1 of this project since 2021. And as Rosy mentioned before, going all the way back to, I think, 2017, maybe even 2015, building the relationship with Samson, starting to weave together some of these wisdoms. So from 2021 to 2023, the foundations were built. Relationships with schools across the western region of Uganda and communities with elders, giving the elders a sense of what this is and asking their opinions, asking their thoughts, seeing if it's something they want, and weaving the indigenous wisdom with the Gene Keys, with the Dream Arc wisdom to create the foundations of the curriculum. So the foundations of the curriculum are already set, ready to go, funded and complete. Phase 2, weaving the web, was last year when a lot of this team you see today began to come together, as Rosy so eloquently said, how we were all pulled into this. And what was happened last year was elder and teacher interviews in the Western region to localize the animal codex for the curriculum. And this is when the international volunteer team was established so that we could, weaving the web of us, so we can weave this bigger web. And the Western region was chosen for a few reasons. It was chosen because there are many education experts there. The education consultants that we work with, that we'll introduce a bit later, have experience there, and relationships there already. And most residents speak a common language there, so it's going to make it easier to spread and to implement our mini pilots across many different schools and districts. And it's largely politically stable. So will be a sense of safety that this curriculum can really drop into. So we're looking at 8 districts. And up to 10 schools are going to be included in pulling students and teachers and community members from various of these 8 districts to form our mini pilots. So this phase 2, which was curriculum refinement, the first round of curriculum refinement, I should say. So our lead education consultant, this amazing, incredible woman, Mabel, who is an ex-principal, ex-trainer of teachers, who is connected to the Universal Love Alliance in Uganda, traveled to these 8 districts and interviewed local elders, gathering data to refine the animal codex and the curriculum, rooted in the local animals of each district and rooted in the local cultural wisdom, and gathered tons of amazing data that's been put into the curriculum. So this curriculum is uniquely structured as a template that can be adjusted for these local animals, cultures, and wisdoms. So let's let Samson tell you a little bit about how the elders have been receiving these interviews and receiving this program so far.
People are very happy, elders, that there is a voice that is coming to empower Ugandans and reroute them and reshape and build confidence in standing with what they are. Mabel reports, or they report, when you are interacting with these elders, they are now singing with their heart. The universal curriculum is awakening a song or songs that have been sleeping within them. They feel happy that someone is asking them talk about animals, talk about clans, talk about African spirituality. Because this is what they know, and this is very important. And they feel this is going to restore love, respect, and values, and knowledge. By the way, these elders, they report and say, and I think even as writings and history, all world's wise men have visited Africa. including Socrates, including all. They have visited Africa. And why? Because there was knowledge here in Africa that people needed.
Yeah, and this is so important, I know, from day one, 2017, 2021, when the real curriculum work started, to make sure that we are not bringing anything to Africa, not bringing anything to Uganda, that we're, with Samson as the lead, working with the community, making sure that we are
very
creating this from all voices. And, when the big, I think I forgot to mention during phase one, Richard, Rosy, Marilee, and Sally were involved in this big gathering of elders and community members that came together to really kick off this whole thing. So, and now for them to feel 2 years later, to see that now it's still moving, it's still happening, and to hear how it's landing for them just means the world. And so that allows us to move even deeper into co-development with their acceptance, their will, their desire, their acceptance of the curriculum. We get to refine it even more as we work with them. We work with our partners there to do these mini pilots. So this is phase 3, and this is what 2024 is all about, and what we're super, super excited about. And because now it's bringing the tangible foundation we've been building and weaving in all this input, we get to finally bring it into students' classrooms in a consistent way, in a way where we can gather even more feedback. So this involves continued engaging with the elders, educators, and partner schools. So these 10 schools that Samson and the ULA team has been building relationships with in such a profound way for all these years, adapting the curriculum to Ugandan systems and learning styles, and also helping us understand how we can do this in other regions and other countries in the future, infusing modules with cultural knowledge and finalizing the animal codex. Implementing mini pilots for smaller groups of students pulled from those schools and districts, and evaluating the progress so we can refine the timeline for 2025. So there's another reason why this is the perfect moment right now to come together and to really support this project right now. And I'll let Samson explain why.
With recently, government has tried to make some changes where the Ministry of Education has introduced a new curriculum that is based on continuous assessment of students. And this way, they are trying to make students work in a team. They are trying to make students make research on their own. So here is where universal love curriculum now comes in to make a difference. One, universal love curriculum intends to help students, help young people think for their own. That's one. Two, this universal curriculum aims at connecting young people with traditional knowledge, with indigenous knowledge. This curriculum aims at teaching young people or students on conflict resolutions, which is a problem that we have faced here in Uganda, as this conflict starts within individuals. For a conflict happens, it starts from an individual, then it spreads to others, then it explodes to the community. So by this way, this universal curriculum, it aims at helping students to think innerly and develop conflict resolutions on their own and embrace harmony with each other. And this curriculum intends also to teach young people on empathy, love, justice, equality, and respect for each and every person. So universal love curriculum is going to help students identify opportunities within themselves, within their environment, within their compound, within their village, within their community, within their sub-county, within their party, where they live.
So, the great change, things weaving together. The government of Uganda, the education system of Uganda has made this choice in 2023 for this continuous education model of no longer basing 100% or a very high percentage of a child's grade on their final exam, but having teamwork and embodiment and conflict resolution and empathy be things that they want to measure continuously over time throughout a semester or throughout a term. And what perfect, because what's been happening is that the teachers and the schools don't always have the materials or the resources to do that the way they would like to. And we do. The Universal Love Curriculum has what the teachers need. And so we can plug in exactly with the momentum that's already happening. And the pillars of this curriculum, you're going to know the Gene Keys and DreamArc, my amazing neighbors in Gene Keys and DreamArc land. You're going to really, I think this is going to hit you very deeply, because it is, again, rooted in the indigenous wisdom, connected to the Gene Keys and DreamArc wisdom. So principles of the mind is pillar number 1, problem solving and critical thinking, creativity and innovation, independence and self-respect, patience and contemplation, curiosity, inquiry, the ability for students to hold paradox, to hold different viewpoints, as Samson was saying, to shift conflict at its root from the inside, and withholding compassion for their fellow peers, understanding their environment, self-awareness and self-confidence. Then we have principles of the body. So helping students get into their body. What do their feelings actually feel like in there? And how can they notice them and work with them, honoring their self and others, listening to the ways bodies communicate with each other, identifying the needs of their body and how to experience their body as an ally, to live, fully, holistically, embracing similarities and differences. Of the heart, communication, conflict resolution, growing tolerance for uncertainty, especially in these rapidly changing times, and upon graduation, being able to create opportunities from nothing in their environments. So discovering personal truths, transforming fears, boundary setting, teamwork and team building. And then of the spirit, creative exploration in a nonlinear way. Those of you that have delved into the DreamArc, you know what this feels like. And even the Gene Keys, if you're opening it or moving from one Gene Key to another, this non-linearness, letting your imagination, letting your heart guide and spirit guide, healing, and this allowing to heal the systemic dislocation of colonialism at its root, identifying how their unique gifts contribute while they're connecting to their cultural roots, exploring interconnectedness, and celebrating their elders, celebrating their culture, celebrating their community, seeing the strength in it, that so many of those wise philosophers of the past traveled to Africa to experience. So this is a holistic approach delivered by local teachers, and that's a key piece. Is the Universal Love Alliance and the Gene Keys team supporting the teachers to understand and make sure they have the resources and the materials they need to deliver this to their classrooms. And it's focused on embodied learning in nature, where students experience an exploration of their local animals and their imagination. So they get to be outside and learning in very embodied ways. So the DreamArc, as many of you know, such an incredible, amazing creation. And in this project, it's weaving in animals plus the Ugandan elders' wisdom. And there's such a central teaching role here. So the 192 animals and 12 animal groups are being localized for the Ugandan districts that we're working in, with the intention of allowing students and to use animals they feel connected to explore their imagination, explore how it associates to their life, to encourage them to identify qualities, traits that they relate to and admire, to expose and connect them to different lands, wisdom traditions, and ways of living, So some of the animals that maybe they're not as familiar with, that in addition to the localized animals, can open up their minds, open up their hearts. Deepening relationship with nature, encouraging interaction with nature. Providing a pathway for self-exploration and growth, and inviting students to explore self, other, and relationships through 3 primary modules that, again, have already been fleshed out. So much of the curriculum, the foundation, the core is already there and ready to go into classrooms. So let's hear what Samson has to say about Dream Arc and how he's experienced it weaving in with Indigenous wisdom.
Let's talk about Dream Arc and animals. The relationship that we human beings have with other creation, and then stem from that, shape our character and behavior in a way that we survive. Because every family here in Uganda has an animal. And these animals are not only used as a badge or as an identity, but they are spiritual. So this in itself makes Dream Arc find the right way to the hearts of Ugandans. And actually not only Ugandans, but even the entire Africa. You cannot separate Africans from animals, especially in the area of... So, let me make it clear. The African spiritual way of worship and life was denounced in the public, but privately it remained.
So, like, such an incredible opportunity, again, to weave the Dream Arc in with a society that is rooted in animals and their culture. And a little surprise here to share some recent ways that the Universal Love Curriculum has already been offered into one classroom. So I'd love for you to take a look at this.
Universal Love Curriculum is going to help these schools that we are going to engage, the schools we are going to do a pilot project, to have resources that are needed to support the Ugandan curriculum that is going on. So it is, they see it as something, a very important supplementary with skills which they didn't have, with resources which they didn't have. Because remember, ours is practical, hands-on. Universal Love Curriculum is hands-on. This school, where we have a teacher and used to have 3 kids in her class, and they were time takers.
Let me share really quick about time takers. So, and Samson can maybe say more about it, but Samson shared with me that when he was interacting with this teacher in the schools, the teacher had shared with him about these 3 students and was using the word slow learners. You know, I think we have our own words for that, you know, needing extra help or in different cultures and regions. But I loved even this, the embodied way of just how being careful with how using language and helping teachers use language in new ways. And Samson and the ULA team introduced this idea of, well, why don't we start by calling them time takers instead of slow learners, which feels more accurate, more true, and more empowering. So that's where this time takers term comes from.
And reason was they never got time to think for themselves or to get something that can make them communicate and lose. So when we took these books for coloring, and they started coloring these books in a group. So now these kids, we are able to paint or color something out of these books that Dr. Rosy sent to us. And then this teacher now stemmed from there and encouraged them to color more, to make more coloring. So from there, they started to communicate. These are kids who are quiet. You ask them, what is this? They keep quiet. They don't answer. How old are you? But now with this coloring, they were able to make these kids start communicating. And got out of fear. We can't tell why they were fearing, because we tried to sit with the teacher, but we realized that what was making them not perform well and to answer questions, they had some kind of fear. And these kids, they improved in communicating with teachers and communicating with other kids, and even their performance in English, writing, and reading, and local language also improved.
And I know we're speaking to the choir that's watching this, but we know that this works, that kids need holistic education, but it's so, gosh, beautiful and like moving to like hear stories like this of you know, letting education create space for kids to feel, to be creative, to be in their imagination, and to allow fears to release, to get out at the root of what's blocking them from accessing their biggest talents and potential. So, you know, here's some other pictures from a more recent. So that was an example during the foundation phase. This is an example from very recently of teaching about the relationship between animals and humans, and bringing in, you know, more of the dream arc wisdom, and having this class draw their animals and talk about the gene keys and the dream arc and the universal love curriculum and mind, spirit, body, and heart, the 4 pillars. Having teachers engage with the students in this way, and, you know, drawing their animals and gaining insights from their connection to these animals. We have Samson here, we can see in this amazing shirt. Samson always has an amazing shirt on, I find, in my opinion. And, you know, with all various students holding up their pictures from the day. So, you know, this team in ULA, we've been talking about them a lot. They are led by Samson, and who you've got to experience a little bit through video here. And an amazing team, Sharon, Kenneth, Mabel, and Mabel, who you got to see in some pictures before, and Sarah, and one of our senior education consultants who has played a big part in helping us localize the curriculum. So we've got such an incredible team, not to mention the, you know, hundreds of teachers and school and community members that have already been engaged that are supporting this project. And, you know, the global team, who you've met many of which today, Rosy and Richard, you all know, myself, Marilee, Rosy's sister, you know, who Rosy so beautifully gave a tribute to. It's been incredible being to meet Matthew and Rose and Isabel. And then we also have the support of other ULAF board members, Rita and Gene, who have been on calls with us and have really just embraced this project and offered their support in any way they can. So this 2024 timeline is really about, again, the cultural adaptation, the continued cultural adaptation and refinement of ULC content with our Ugandan partners, starting last month. You know, this is ongoing from 2023 all the way to the beginning of 2025, or perhaps earlier, but you know, beginning 2025 is when we're shooting to really start these mini pilots. And again, we're taking our time. We're doing it right. We know that shifting, creating the foundations and seeds for a whole new education system takes time. So we are taking our time to continue to refine the curriculum with our Ugandan partners, with the districts, to prepare materials for publication and make sure that we have all the resources to provide the teachers that we'll be working with for the mini pilots, to do the trainings and all of that. And that's what this whole you know, presentation has been about today, is the continued momentum of bringing this and bringing groups of students from different districts together. So Samson's got a few final words, and the video version of Samson has a few final words here.
Let's talk about going to schools. One is that as we go to, first of all, starting with the first phase where we had elders, when they went outside, they spread the gospel about what is coming about universal love curriculum. Now, maybe going out and talk to these education experts, of course, the education experts, they have network with education institutions here in Uganda. Then third, we as the Universal Love Alliance, of course, we have been practicing this in schools, of course, not on a big scale, on a small scale. So the whole point is that schools are waiting, teachers are waiting. And this is why when we are creating the timeline, we reached out to already schools that we know. And the head teachers and the principals and classroom teachers, they participated in developing this time that they are giving universal life curriculum. What does this mean? It means that the ground is already prepared to receive the status of universal life curriculum. So and this is the reason we feel that this is the right time that we work together hand in hand to make sure that universal life curriculum and Gene Keys practices and teachings reach young people now, so as we put a brick in making a world a better place for generations and generations. And this is the right thing that we can do now, is to make sure that universal life curriculum reaches people that really need it. Let's talk about going to...
So what's better than a Samson video? A Samson. So I want to turn this over to Samson now so you can say a few words live. Anything you'd like to say, Samson, about why Uganda, why Africa, anything about the ULC, anything that's on your heart here for the people we have tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn this over to you.
Well, thanks, Orion, and everyone who has spoken before me. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone that is online right now. And again, I would like to thank the founder of Gene Keys for these wonderful principles and the teachings and the knowledge that worked to bring to the world that puts people in a position where they are able to solve their own problems. I thank you, Richard, for making this, and it is happening in our lifetime. Also, I would like to thank DreamArc team for this incredible work of getting Gene Keys knowledge and integrate it to this universal curriculum in a way that is easy and flexible for people to understand it, especially here in Uganda, by contextualizing it locally and speaks the language of Ugandans, which they understand. And this makes a different, or makes universal life curriculum or Gene Keys knowledge different other than the other knowledge that had come to Uganda. I wish Gene Keys appeared in Africa before colonialists, but that did not happen. But fortunately, now it is happening. So friends, universal life curriculum is needed in Uganda. Why? The one that controls your soul controls the whole of you, controls your future, controls everything that helps you to survive, and determines your next steps as in progress and development. So what do I mean here? For many years, the African spirituality has been under captivity. The souls of Africans are still under captivity. Why? The spiritual atmosphere is still colonized, is still controlled. Now, the spirit and the soul, they match together. So what is happening, or what is universal life curriculum is going to do, or what is Gene Keys practices and education going to do in Uganda, is to heal the wound of history, is to restore the dignity of Africans. I need to remind you that Africa was captured and neutralized at a very stage when it was taking step in understanding, and development. And then from there was uprooted and disconnected and disoriented from what it is on. Universal Love Curriculum, together with Gene Keys and the Dream Arc, we are working to restore dignity, knowledge, understanding based on indigenous knowledge. And what makes Gene Keys unique and applicable is that it respects all cultures and bring people together. For example, through our retreats and exchanges that we have had, I have met different people coming from different parts of the world with animals they believe in or share or respect as their family animals or as something that inspires them, which applies even here in Uganda. Meaning that if you are in Germany and you respect a monkey, I need to tell you, you have a brother or a sister also here in Uganda that respect a monkey. So if you come here to Uganda, you will be coming to your family that respects the same animal that you respect. If you are in the US, you respect a lion and you believe your animal is a lion. I tell you, if you come here to one village in Uganda, you'll find a family just practices the same things that you practice in the respect of a lion. So what does this mean? It means Gene Keys, Dream Arc, and through the connection we have with nature is making us one and realizing that no matter what, if the skin color cannot connect us, if the religion cannot connect us, if the crosses that we put on cannot connect us, if geographical locations cannot connect us, now here is a Dream Arc. Here is animals connecting us and respecting, and that lead us to respect each other. So I thank you very much, and I hope that we shall work with you. You shall stand with us in making sure that we deliver this knowledge of Gene Keys and the Dream Arc to people that need it. Most importantly, Gene Keys knowledge puts people in position where they solve their own problems. I thank you very much. Long live Richard Bard. Long live Rosy, long live Dream Arc team, and everyone that supports this work or tries to spread this work to other people in the world or within family where you come from, or a village or a city. Thank you.
Thank you, Samson. Thank you, Orion. Thank you for this beautiful presentation. So I'm just reading the comments and I just can feel how deeply people are resonating by all that's being shared right now. And that just makes me so happy. So we thought, in honor of this Dream Arc, thus animal-infused curriculum, that it would be fun to call forth an animal to act as kind of like the guardian for the curriculum going forward. And Matthew has a very special gift for always finding the right animal for every occasion. So Matthew, I want to thank you for bringing raccoon into our field of awareness. And Orion, you want to put the raccoon slide up? Okay, so in the Dream Arc, for those of you who don't know, the raccoon is a life key, a mammal. Okay, there we go. All right. And it's connected to the 50th gene key, for those of you who know what that means, and it's a trickster. And according to Richard, who both birthed and authored the entire DreamArc Animal Codex, the raccoon represents wily equilibrium. So I thought I'd choose just a couple of paragraphs from the Codex to share a little bit about raccoon's wise guidance with all of us. And I'm sure it's not going to take long before you all understand why Matthew's intuition led us to this animal. So this is the raccoon speaking. I am needed more than ever right now. Your world is in massive flux. In the coming years, many things that you take for granted will be stolen from you. You will have to think on your feet. You will have to be light-footed and mentally nimble. You will need a wide range of skills to thrive. Never turn away from learning something new. Always be open to what the next generations are bringing with them. Learn from them, listen to them. Let me into your inner life and I will shake up all your old paradigms and belief structures. You need to be bendy like the willow. You need to be fast like the falcon. And above all, you must be giving. For what are the use of all those skills if you cannot use them to help others? My blend of cunningness and generosity is a rare thing in your world. Learn from me. Let me open up your mind. Be ready to drop everything and move with the change that's coming. Hone your intuition, sense things before they happen. Be like the ancestors and indigenous people who look to the patterns in nature to see what's coming and prepare in advance. Wherever in your life there is weight, it must be thinned down. Simplify, lighten, unburden. Don't get too settled or comfortable anywhere. Then you will be ready for anything. Then you will thrive in the coming times of transition. Then you will become a beacon of generosity for many in fear. Teach others too what you have learned and let the power of raccoon be yours to share widely. So such a profound message and so perfect for what this Universal Love Curriculum is all about. It is essentially here to teach the life skills and the artfulness that we need to meet times of change with agility and creativity and generosity. And one of the deepest intentions with the curriculum is to really call forth the inner wisdom keeper of the children and the teachers in schools and communities who work with the curriculum. As Richard has often said, knowledge comes to us from the outside, but wisdom already exists on the inside, and all that's needed is for it to be invited out. So it really makes sense that if we wish to invite out the wisdom in kids, we must uncover the wisdom that lives inside of us. And that means releasing the mind from so much of the conditioning messages that we've received from our own schooling and families and cultures, the ones we grew up in, that no longer match what's being asked of us now at this moment of time in our lives and in the world. And it means releasing the mind from the burden and the illusion of being in control and allowing it to act in service of an open and exceedingly flexible heart. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Matthew and I had a long talk about the curriculum and its relationship to generosity. And I thought I would share some of what came out of that conversation with you, much of which is Matthew's wisdom. So one thing we'd like to share is that this curriculum is a giant invitation for all of us to shift our focus from the me to the we. And it's kind of interesting because on the one hand, many people who are drawn to the Gene Keys are drawn to it because they want to learn about themselves, right? What's my life's work? What's my purpose? What shadows am I here to lean into? What gifts are mine to express? And then on the other hand, most of the people I know in the Gene Keys community are like deeply we-oriented and generous people in nature. And often their longing to discover more about who they actually are stems from a tendency to maybe get lost in empathy towards others and really wanting to be of service. So like the raccoon, many of us here, even those of you who just kind of stumbled upon this event serendipitously and have no idea what the Gene Keys are, are longing to find balance. And often when we really deepen into our own inner lives and become present to our outer lives, we naturally find that deeply exploring and taking better care of ourselves leads to wanting to be of service, and being of service leads to realizing just how essential it is that we really know who we are and that we care for ourselves. So we really want to emphasize just how wily and flexible and paradoxical and wonderful the act, the concept, the attitude, the state of generosity really is, just like the raccoon. When we let our minds surrender in service of the heart, it can look so different for each of us, and each moment may call for something very different from us. So there are going to be times when we're called to be generous with others, and other times we're called to be generous with ourselves, times when we're called to be generous with our listening, our receptivity, our flexibility, with our presence, our compassion, or our joy and our laughter and our silliness, or with our creativity and artfulness and self-expression, or with our courageous role modeling. Sometimes the best way for us to express our generosity is by being transparent and vulnerable with others, or by forgiving somebody who's hurt us, or by standing for a truth or justice, even when it makes other people uncomfortable, or being willing to be excruciatingly honest with ourselves and do the inner work we need to do. And sometimes stepping back so that somebody else can shine, or holding back our desire to rescue so that somebody else can discover their own strength and resilience are the most generous things we can do. And yeah, so there are also times, of course, when we're called to be generous with our resources, our money, our assets, our expertise. And other times, the most generous thing we can do is share our friends, our communities, our human connections with others, or just help spread the word about something that we want to support, or to share our prayers, or hold the vision, and remain devoted to our spiritual practices. And of course, so many of us experience that we can be generous in one place and then end up receiving from some other place, because it's all connected, the dance of giving and receiving, the web of life. And that's one of the things that I love the most about the curriculum, because nature is at the heart of it. And as Richard shared at the very beginning of our time together, nature is inherently generous, right? Think of a flower, think of the rain, the beauty all around us and within us. Gaia gives with a full and abundant heart. She gives to herself and to all of her inhabitants simultaneously and with boundless diversity. She doesn't hold back. And that's us too, right? We are the spirit of Gaia embodied in the human monkey suits that we're all in. And we're here to make a difference. And it doesn't matter if it's big or small, it all matters. Would we ever compare the contribution of a daisy to a rainbow, to a lightning bolt, to a mountain lion, to an ant, or to a bird, right? I could go on and on, but I think you get the idea. So Matthew, I was thinking this would be a great time for people to share. So would you like to invite people into a raccoon-inspired contemplation for us?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Rosie. I really appreciate your passion for all of that. It really shone through. And one of the things as well that I was thinking of with the raccoon is related to the 50th gene key, and it didn't get mentioned in that as much, but the 50th gene key has a lot to do with the environment in which we raise children. So it's got an added sort of message in there if we connect it directly to the Gene Keys messaging as well. So yeah, I've been really reflecting on this theme with a lot of people recently, and as Rosie was saying, there's so many people in this community that's just naturally generous. And, when we're making these call outs and bringing things to the table like this, there's so many different ways in which your generosity will be appreciated. And we also want to pause for reflection of where generosity is needed right now, because that's part of the raccoon message as well. That equilibrium between the balance of the giving and receiving, and recognizing the ultimate truth that giving is receiving. And so, one of the things I was inviting folks to contemplate, maybe that I would invite folks to contemplate at this time, is to maybe just do a little bit of a piece of self-awareness around this, and really contemplate for yourself, what are the ways in which you are already generous? I mean, Rosie listed off so many there. And, we think the two common ones tend to be time and money or resources, but there's so many other ways, through our kind words, through the work that we're doing, everything Rosie mentioned. So I'm not going to go into repeating this, but maybe you just might take a pause to reflect, what are the ways in which I am generous? Because sometimes in a world where so much seems to be driven by what money is needed for, that sometimes we can evolve with these stories. I know I did, the story that I was never generous enough, and then beginning to pause to reflect on the ways that I could be that I was generous. And then also, in which areas could we stretch ourselves to be a little more generous? And it doesn't have to be like Rosy said, it's like every little piece contributes, every little piece of energy that we are bringing to something is something that contributes. And so maybe it's like, maybe I could give 5 minutes of my time to somebody who's struggling, or maybe I could give a couple of dollars or a couple of cents even to something that really matters to me. But ultimately, it's going to be something that it feels good in that giving. That's where the giving is the receiving. And so that's another question that you might pause for, reflect on. Where could I stretch myself a little bit more? I found I was always somebody, I considered myself very generous with my time with folks. And it was a bit of a stretch to in the early days to kind of give myself that move that generosity into other areas, to begin to recognize where I was expanding in that field of generosity. And also, I want to bring in another creature very, very temporarily here, and I won't dive deep into it like we have with the raccoon, because the raccoon's holding the show today. It was the duck. The duck is another dream arc creature. And one of the small reflections it has says that many people give to others without first taking care of themselves. Take great care of yourself then. Then you may give to others. Do you ask for enough for yourself? And so, to everybody here who is, I am sure, such a giver and so generous in the ways that you are showing up in the world already, is there ways that you could be generous with yourself? That generosity to self leads to generosity to all of the connected field of life. So those were just some simple contemplations I thought to bring in. And yeah, courtesy of the duck there at the end as well. So yeah, I don't think I'll add anything further to what you shared, Rosy. Your passion shone through. Really appreciate it. And I think we're welcoming Richard and Rosy back to the stage now to begin to wrap things up. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone who's spoken. Orion, that was a great presentation, really interesting. And Samson, you did a great job with your videos, and thanks for the time you put into those, and also just for being here with your presence among us and all your passion. And of course, Rosy. I think, when I talked about syntropy at the beginning, and this kind of universal, it is universal love is exactly what it is. It's the flowering of consciousness itself as it seeds itself endlessly into creation. And so it is that part of life, it is the kind of essence of life itself. And if you apply that view of the syntropy view, which I'm going to be talking a lot about this over the next months, because we also have a Pearl retreat coming up in a few months, and that's all about syntropy. And if you know your Gene Keys, that might be something you might enjoy coming on a journey with us. But the way of applying syntropy through your mind and through your heart is about how we apply generosity and balance and equilibrium, represented by that Gene Key 50. And so it's true that you have to be able to give to yourself before you have enough to give to others. And but when you apply syntropy at a really deep level, if you want to apply it to the earth, the globe, the planet, because the planet needs help. It's crying out for help. So when you apply syntropy to it, one of the first places where you're going to look is education. Because if you want to change a whole system, that's where you go first. You have to go to children, because they're going to be the future. And so it's always been there. So bringing this teaching, this transmission into the hearts of children is a really, really important thing. And we've gone on about animals and things like that. And, the animals are the symbols of, like the Gene Keys, are symbols of qualities that we have to learn at different times that we can bring alive and share and use creatively to solve problems in the world. So the animals are just, they're the symbols, and that's why we dream of them and they come in and out of our lives, and they, but they're the aspects of nature that are around us that, especially when you're young, if you think back to when you were a child, animals were really important. You have them on your pillow, cuddly ones and things, and you're fascinated by them because they are the repositories of gifts and skills and aspects of us. And they literally are inside us because we literally evolved through them. So when we see and resonate with different creatures at different times, it's a way of connecting with something inside ourselves. It's a right brain way of connecting with a quality inside ourselves. And that's what this is all about. Bringing that way of understanding, that embodied understanding of education to children so that they can begin, and then they can learn the mathematics and the sciences and all those other things because they have an embodied understanding of who they are. And they feel good, and they have built self-esteem, and they're not riddled with doubts, and one of the beauties of actually bringing it to a place like Uganda is that the young people have not been completely ruined yet, I'm going to say that, by the technology, and in a way, it's not that it's too late for the rest of us, but it's a really great place to kind of start a new wave, because these minds are still really open and malleable and flexible and undistracted. And so it's a perfect place to plant a seed, And I think that's why it's come, and why all of this has just come. I mean, I couldn't imagine, as Rosie said, I couldn't imagine I'd have anything to do with Uganda, but it seems like I do. and we all do. And I want to invite you, because we talked a lot about this and that, and you might be thinking, well, are they going to ask us for money? And I kind of going to say, well, if you want to help us that way, it would be very welcome. But that's all I'm going to say, other than if you would like to donate to this cause now, and you're going to see, Rose is going to talk to you in a moment at the end about lots of different ways you can get involved. And just donating is just one. But if you do want to do that, then you should know that some of your donation might also go to Universal Love Alliance, who have a lot of problems of their own to deal with, just being in Uganda. Just, you've seen the complexity of this project, just getting from A to B, and this all has to be funded. And I donated a considerable amount from the Gene Keys in the last phase. But we're going to have to throw our net wider because the phases become more complex, and that's what we're going to do. But if you want to get involved in that way or in any way, we'd love to invite you to be part of this project. So listen on a little bit. Rosie, you might have something to add. Rose is going to kind of finish it off, I think, isn't she?
Yes, I would just love for Rose to come on, and I invite everyone to just stay an extra, few minutes, so you get to experience Rose, and she'll give you some ideas about ways you can get involved and just share some of her passion with this project. We would not be here without Rose. So Rose, you want to come on in?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Okay,
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much, everyone here. This whole presentation was just absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Richard, for that. And I've been following in the chat too, and it's just so powerful to see the resonance with everybody of where you can see this needed, and just the reaction to Samson. My heart is just on fire for this project in so many ways. And everybody that I talk to, it's the same, like we could see this being everywhere. And so just, in resonance with what Rosie was sharing, and Matthew as well, the spirit of multiple ways to give, financially, obviously one, by donating, you're helping just directly bring this project to life. And we have a specific campaign page set up for that I believe has been shared in the chat. So if you are in a place to donate your finances in that way, please feel free. It's signed up when you go to the page just as a one-time give, but through PayPal, you can donate monthly if that feels in resonance with you. That's how I personally like to do it. It feels like just like a little subscription on my back end. And then of course, through your attention, like that's one of our attention and our time. I just think that that's one of our most prized possessions, especially in a world today that's competing for so much of our time and our energy. And so if you'd like to stay involved and you're feeling passionate about the project, we have a newsletter. We're going to drop that link in the chat as well. You can sign up and just stay tuned for project updates and future ways to get involved. We've got an event coming next Friday, the 23rd. I would love to see all of you there. It'll be led and hosted by Samson completely. So especially you guys who are in the chat just really resonated with Samson and his energy. He's going to be hosting a little bit of experiencing the ULC in action. So we've also been tracking your questions in the chat, and we'll have just answers to share either at that event or at future live events just as they emerge over time. So and then if neither of those work for you in terms of the way that you want to contribute, just your energy in being here today, I just want to say thank you so much. There's been just so much time and love poured into this project from so many different people. So just to all of you that have made it here today, all of you that are watching the replay, just thank you so much for your energy and your attention and just seeding this intention with us and holding it in your heart as a prayer. That is also an immense way to give. So the power of community, we really are going to see this, I think, over the upcoming years of just the intelligence, the emerging intelligence that can come from community. And when we join our hearts over a shared purpose like this, the impact is unquantifiable. We create a ripple effect, and I know that for sure. So I just want to say thank you again for being here, all my wonderful teammates. Just thank you so, so much. This was so great.
Oh, thank you so much, Rose. How about everybody from the team? Let's see your beautiful faces. And maybe Samson, were you going to say something? Was there something else you wanted to say, Rose?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I thought maybe Samson, you could bring us to a close together, and however way you want to do it.
So as we are closing this session, I wish to request everyone, wherever you are, and this has nothing to do with your faith connections or with your beliefs, but it has something with the understanding and trying to study and relate with the other creation. We as human beings on this planet, we have special stand in relation to other creation. So in this time in particular, I request you to close your eyes if you can, and then look at your home where you stay. I need you to pick something and you focus on it. Look at its beauty. It could be a tree, it could be a flower, it could be a stone. It could be even a corner of your building. It could be an iron sheet. It could be a trash bin. Look at its beauty and see what it does for you. In particular, which service do you get from that you've picked? How does it help you to survive? Look at its challenges it goes through on a daily basis. In my context, I have chosen a bee. I see this bee that leaves its beehive, travels long distances as it goes to collect nectar. It rains. We all know when it rains, it is not easy for bees to move. But I need you to assume like in winter season or in a rainy season, a bee had gone somewhere and this season gets it on the way. It has to hide. It has to endure all challenges until it comes back at its beehive. And it does not come empty-handed, but it comes with nectar to make honey. A little bit of opposite. How are you helping this thing you have chosen in your community, in your compound, to survive? If it's a tree, what have you done to help a tree to survive? If it's a flower, what have you done to help this flower to survive? If it is soil itself, where the house you stay in, or a building, or a shelter you stay in, stands on, what have you done to help soil survive? You ask these questions for yourselves and get answers for yourselves. Please. You can touch any part of your body that you feel comfortable with, or where you feel you need to be touched, you yourself. Open your eyes slowly, step by step, and then look at where you have touched. Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you, Samson.
Namaste.
I just want to say, while we're in this state that Samson just brought us into, that if you want to experience more Samson, as Rose said, please come next Friday. He's going to take us into an even deeper experience of what he just did. And yeah, I can never get enough Samson magic. So hope to see you there.
Thank you, everyone. Mwah. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for giving up some of your Saturday. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Yasko, thank you for hosting, Yasko.
My pleasure. Okay, I will end the call.